Oh, boy. Well, hello. We're here again. Let me throw the note up to everybody that we're here. It's Tuesday. I might even write some code today. We're gonna get wild. See if I remember how. Let's see. Where's let me get to my channel. There we are. There's the link. Okay, that goes up on there. Throw one of these up on here. Cool. Okay. The notes are out. We're in business here. So let's head over to this screen. Get these things out of the way. And it's showtime. It's something. Let's do this actually. I'm just kind of in the process of closing down a million things that I had open and didn't need. Just make sure that all these are closed and out of the way so that I can be ready for all the business that is about to occur here. Okay, apps are closed. We're in business. It's time. What's up, everyone? How are you? Cool. Okay, so my idea for today is, I'm always happy to kind of talk in the abstract. I feel like the last couple episodes have been very philosophical, very chatty. I'm always down for that. So if you got questions, please throw them my way. What's up, Nick? Welcome to your first LinkedIn Live. Apologies that it's this one. So here's my thought. My thought is that today I haven't coded in a little while, and somebody in the YouTube comments hurt my feelings by accusing me of being bad at it. So maybe today we write some code and see if I can't prove them right. I was watching this thing recently. Let me see if I can find the video quickly. It was the syntax team. Where's the syntax? Is that right? There they are. Okay. So the syntax team just did this thing where they wanted to do this effect. Let me present my screen here. And we will also share system audio, tab audio. Actually, I can share system audio now because I don't have a guest. Okay, so we'll do this. And then let's get in the good view. That one. Got it. You lost my audio. Okay, y'all tell me if you can hear this. Did that sound come through, or are y'all hearing nothing? What's up, Bridge? How you doing? Let me also fix the banner here. That one. Okay. So no sound. All right, let me try to remove this. Stop. I'm going to try one more time. We're going to see if this works. You share the audio. There. Got it. Lost connection to your screen share audio. Okay. Well, apparently that's not going to work, so we can't play sound, but it's fine. The thing that they did is they decided they were going to take a crack at recreating that text effect. And the specific text effect, so it's off this website here. This is the Lando Norris website, which has been all over the internet. Everybody's really stoked about it. It's got a lot going on. but the piece that they were looking at was this piece here, and you can kind of see, let me zoom way in. When you look at these hover effects, right? There's this kind of stacked letters thing going on. And I want to take a crack at trying to build this. So that's the plan for today. I want to give this a shot, see if we can figure it out. So I'm gonna do it in CodePen, and we're going to see how long it takes me to figure this out. So I'm gonna do it as much in semantic HTML as I can. That's the plan. So we're gonna do an href, and then I'm just gonna stub these for now. Okay, and then we're gonna have our links. And I'm not gonna stress about this for like getting it exactly right. We're just gonna get the individual pieces up here. So then we've got our nav is gonna be display flex. How's size on this? Let me make this a little bit bigger. So that's gonna be display flex, and then we're gonna go flex direction column. And that gets them side by side. Let's also, do I get body on this? Like, can I just set this to be, what am I looking for? Display grid. And then we can place items center, I think. Yep, and then we can do a min block size will be 100 dBB. There it is. Okay, so then we can, here we'll align item center. Okay, and then for each of our links, we'll go with a text transform uppercase. We're going to do a text decoration of none. Okay, and then let's do a font. And I don't know what the font family is that got used on this site, and I'm not going to stress about it too much, but it's kind of a, well, let's see if it's one that we can actually pull in, because it'd be kind of fun to get it exactly right. So let's go with computed Mona Sans variable. Okay, I think we can get that one. Mona Sans, good. And this is the variable. So we should be able to get that. Good. Let's get the embed code. We're going to do it right up at the top like this. Or actually, I think we might need to do this one as an import. That'll be easier. So we'll copy that code and come in here. Throw that right up at the top like so. And then what we should be able to do is just quickly change. I guess we can take all of this. And we'll do, I guess we'll put it right on the A, because why not? Okay, and then we're going to set it to the 900. Font weight, font weight. We want the 900. Set the width to 50. What are my width options here? Width, change styles. I want my width to be 75. Now, do I get an option on this? Width, weight. Full axis. Right? Can I read this? Let's see. If I set this to 75, does it just do the thing, or do I need to add something to that declaration? I need to add something to the declaration. So I'm going to just recopy this, I think, and not stress about it too much. That's too much. We want it to be maybe the semi-condensed. And that's going to be 87.5. That looks about right. So is width not? Width is not new, and it's not CSS. It's the font, like variable font stuff. So when you look at variable font, you get all these different bits here, like the weights and the widths and so on and so forth. These, I could have just set it to full axis. That would have been the right call, because then it would give me, because if I do that, then I can set it to whatever I want. And let me show you what that means. So by changing this, so we can see the width here, we have the width set to 87.5, but now it's set to 75 to 125, so we can set it to whatever we want. And now if I set it to like 80, right, I have that control. So we can kind of set it to anything, and it'll respond to that, which is nice. So yeah, if you're not working with variable fonts, it's not super common, and not something that you need to, like, typically you wouldn't need to worry about it. But it's nice in a situation like this where you can kind of play with the variable font. And like if we wanted to do something like, for example, make the TikTok, actually we can play with that. Watch, this is cool. So if I were to do a class of wider, then down here I can do wider, and we'll set font variation settings, and I can set this to 125. And see, so now it's the same font, but we've got the different pieces here. So we could do something like trying to get them all to be the same width, which is kind of cool. Almost. And like this is a dangerous game to play, because you'll sit here and do this all day. But yeah, so like if we played something like that, then we'd be able to do, let's see, we want these to be a line height of 1, because we want them all to be in the same place, right? And then we can set, let's play with colors here. So this is using a white on like this dark green. And so if we look at this dark green, we come in here, if we can find a color somewhere. Color dark green. Yeah, take me to that one. So then in here, we can do a body background of this dark green color, and then we'll pull the color of the letters themselves. It'll probably be easier to pull right out of here. Color in here, that's useful. But I bet they have, that's the color. So then we can make these the right color. Okay, so that gets us closer, and then let's do like a font size here to make this a bit bigger. So I want to alphabetize this, because that's how my brain works. LMNOP Yeah, okay, all right, and then we're going to font size. I think we want to font size this to be, let's say, like 2 rem. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So that'll be our setup there. So then the next thing that we're going to need to do is let's just get the basics of this setup in here, because I want to get the animation running and like kind of running forwards and backwards. because then what we'll be able to do is we're going to end up having to split these up, and then we need to do like per letter. But if we get the basics of it feeling right, we'll be able to get everything else going pretty quickly once we do the span thing. I'm going to I got to decide if I'm going to like hand code the spans, which would be an easy thing to do, or we could bring in something like Stephen Shaw has a little thing called splitting. It's a useful little tool that we can use. All choices we can make. Ah, nice. Yeah, just auto formatted for me. Appreciate that. Okay, so let's start by doing the animation here. And to do the animation, I'm going to actually take one of these out because we need to get the kind of doubling and clipping and all that stuff going. So in order to do this, I'm going to try. See if I can do this from memory. Is text shadow a thing? And it would be 0, 1M, 0, and this color, not that color. Whoops. Is that a thing? That is indeed a thing. Look at it go. That is perfect. Perfection. Exactly what we want. So, and that even looks about like the right height, right? So then what we can do is we want to set a translate Y, and we'll set it to 0. And then when it's hovered, or I guess we'll do is hover or active, we will set a translate Y of -1M. Is that going to do it for me? No, that's not it. Can I do M's in here? Does that not work? Let's try just doing it with pixels. His hover is active. Am I doing this wrong? Okay, let's simplify. Okay, so my translate is not doing what I expect it to. Is it where? I know we're not going to use pixels. I'm not doing that. I'm just right now I'm trying to see if it's because the unit doesn't work, and it's clearly not that because pixels aren't working either. So translate Y is the problem. So I guess we go to the docs, mdn.io translate Y, and see, I thought they had moved this out into its own thing, but maybe not. This is reference values. Yeah, I don't want that. Let's do mdn.io slash, because I know that one is. See, this is the stuff that's, how do you find this? Rotate property, right? And okay, so maybe what I need to look at is the mdn.io transform, or no, translate Y property. Does that not exist? Translate. There's no shorthand for it. Like you just got to do them both. Translate X, translate Y. Okay, so if you add one value, it's just X, add 2 values. All right, so we can fix that easy enough. So we'll do a translate of 0, 1M. Okay, that's almost there. That's a little goofy. But actually this will work because it's going to be around a span. So what we can do is if we span the whole thing, right, then what we'll do is we'll set the span to be translate 0. And then when the span is hovered, or not when the, yeah, that should fix it. Oh, that's not it either. I have to do it like this. No, that's not doing it. It's like almost doing it, but the translate's not working. And the translate's not working because it needs to be a display block. There it goes. Okay. So that's doing the positioning that we want, right? So then what we need is we need to transition this. So we'll do a transition of like, we'll say a 0.7 seconds. How does that feel? Let's do milliseconds. Probably gonna want to do that. And then I have a hunch that this is going to be like an ease out if I, but we also want it to be the translate only. That's way too slow. Let's try 200 milliseconds. Better. Still not quite right. Let's do 150. $150 feels about right, yeah? Okay, so I'm pretty happy about that. And I do think, I think it's just ease out. I don't think it's ease in out. They're probably using a custom function because it seems like it slows down quite a bit at the end. Yeah. We can fix that later if we need to. We can do a linear easing function. So that's okay. So then let's set up our overflow. Overflow is going to be hidden. And then we get bloops. All right, so that's not bad. I'm not sad about that. Okay. So that's doing exactly what we want. Then let's take this and go one step further here, and we need to break these TikTok spans into individual letters. So probably the fastest, I mean, so we could use something like TIK, TOK, but I think it's going to be faster to just do it like this. At least for the proof of concept. Like we can work out a way to make this work a little bit better later on, but what we're going to do for now is we're going to do this, get into our link here. It's going to be display flex, and that should bring him back into line. Okay, everything's still functioning as we expect. But then what I want is I want to set up a transition delay. And that's going to be, does this work? Is transition delay a thing? Let's find out. Sibling index times. Does that work? Ooh, yeah, it does. Look at it go. Okay, so let's try this with milliseconds. Boop. That's not bad. I think that's still too fast or too slow. That feels pretty good. Still not quite right. I mean, it might be. Is it just as slow as like? So this is maybe too fast now. It's getting closer. That's feeling pretty good. Right? Like the ease out isn't quite right. Like, so we are going to need that linear easing function to make it ease out harder. But I'm pretty stoked on that as like a default kind of setup, right? Like not bad. Not bad. Fix the translate on the span. I ain't fixing shit. Man, Discord, why you got to be like that? Yeah, the thing with Discord is that it's a big pain in the butt. Why not do transform translate? Why I absolutely could, but I like not doing that. And then yeah. So we could do transform translate Y. However, as Vinny called out way before I figured it out, we could have just done translate with 2 values, and that's much nicer. We could do top would work. Wait, can you specify Y like that? That'd be sick. Let's try. No, that doesn't work. That'd be cool though. Okay. So that feels pretty good. I'm happy about that. But then this kind of sucks from an implementation standpoint because you don't want to have to do this for everything. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to look up splitting.js. Well, I don't want you to splitting.js. Can I get you to just search it and not thank you? So this is splitting. And I think we can just pull this out. Yeah, you just kind of drop in this whole buddy. But what I want is using a CDN. Why do I need this? I don't need that bit. I just need it to do the splitting. So I'm going to grab this here. And I think what we can do is go into JavaScript, splitting. You know, GSAP is pretty well supported, so why don't we look up how that one works? And that way I'm not worried that whatever's going on here could be a problem later. So let's go look in the docs. Let's look up split text. And we get a quick start. So we can just grab that. Split text create into words and characters. And so in my case, it'll just be into characters. And all I'm looking for. Now, is that going to work? I'm going to need GSAP as well, though, for that to function, right? Something tells me that's not going to do what we want, but why don't we try it? We might have to bring in like GSAP proper for this to work, but we're gonna we're going to give it the old college try. All right, so then in our JavaScript, we just need to bring in, theoretically, you. Is that going to work? And then what I'm looking for is for that to have that div'd them all. Can I get you to do spans instead of divs? Do I have any control? Like, I guess it's fine, but I would rather it wasn't doing block elements. Config object. Configuration, type words, lines. So we've got aria, auto split, cares, deep slice, ignore. Tag. So we can do tag span, and we can do, I wanted it to only split on the characters. So let's have it do that. Type characters, tag, span. Now if we look, that's exactly what we were doing before, and we are happy. Good. Good, good, good. So then I can come back out here and get rid of this part. Save it. Oh, there we go. That's better. And now, no matter how many things we do here, we get the thing we wanted. I'm really happy I didn't have to bring in all of GSAP for that to work. That's cool that functioned. So let's make this a little bit bigger, and let's just clean this up a tad, because I want to be able to read this code. Okay, so that's good. I'm happy with that. We're going to just pull that off to the side. Now we've got our setup here, and any number of these that we want to set up are going to do the thing. Looks like we need a bit of a gap between. Yeah, it looks like they just created a bit of a gap, and we don't have that, so you get that collision. So we can set up a gap in our nav of, let's say, 0.5 m. Right now they don't smash into each other like that. And then the last thing I want to do is I want to I want to fix this easing. And I want it to be slower. And I feel like actually there is a really good tool for this. Is it this one? Out. And then I think I can even like really pull this back more. And my X2 should be 1. Yeah, happy with that. Let me copy it now. Copy to clipboard. Let's give this a try instead of our just standard ease out. Wait, come on. Cooperate with me. Still a little more than I wanted. Let's try 0.4, because that'll pull it further across. Still a little like. Is that? maybe what I want actually. Yeah, something like that. That feels. So we'll kind of face him up like that. And if I zero you out, that's too aggressive. Let's take it up to like 0.2. Split the difference. Maybe a little more. Maybe a little less. No, I think it needs to be more. That seems about right. Okay. Let's try that one more time. That feels pretty good. Yeah? Side by side? So we need a little bit more time in between to make it like more swingy. And it might need to be a bit slower. Do we need to go back to 500? Is it actually that slow? But no, this is too fast. I guess this is kind of ease in out, isn't it? So maybe then this should be here and this should be like here-ish. That feels a little better. Now it's too slow. I think it's still too slow. A little bit too slow. I think this delay is now too slow again. Just kind of going back and forth until this feels right, but I think that's it. What do you think? Seems right to me. Let's see. How dare you? Yeah, I think this is right. Yeah. I think we're there. So yeah, I think this is it. Like we can call this done, I think. Yeah, I think so too. I think we're there. So what did that take us? About 30 minutes of messing around to get that to feel what I mean, I'm not gonna say this is like pixel perfect, but this is pretty dang good. And then if we add more in here, we can throw another one and say Twitter. What else is in here? YouTube. Right. And then we can start to do some fun stuff. Oh, you know what we could do that would be fun? Ooh, I have an idea. Check this out. So instead of this, let's do a fallback. Now I'm just playing. Let's do a fallback. And we'll do a font width or 77, right? Now that should set all of them. And then what we can do up here is instead of setting wider, I screwed this up. Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube. Yeah. Okay. So we got that. And then what we should be able to do is instead of using this wider down here, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to delete this. We're going to go to the one that says wider. Get rid of that. And instead, I'm going to set a style of font width. Yeah, look at that. Okay, so now we can start to play with this and like try to get all these to feel like they match. And I'm going to guess this one's going to be like 95. Oh, yeah, basically nailed that. Oh, whoops. Okay. Do another one. This one is going to be, this one's just going to be 90 straight up. Nope, 94. 93. Pretty close. And then YouTube, oops. YouTube is going to be 90. Yeah. I like variable fonts. But isn't this cool? Like it's super flexible. And when you look at the code, I think what makes this special in my mind is that when you start looking at the code for stuff like this, it's so readable, right? Like we did quite a bit to this to get it to, like this stuff is all tweaky and we could probably come up with different ways to manage that if we wanted to. But like, I think this is really clean, legible HTML. You can see it's a link. It goes to wherever it goes. You can read the text, all those good things. And like even the CSS on this isn't wild. We're not doing anything completely off the rails here. The probably the biggest chunk is actually messing with the variable fonts, which is also, totally like we could honestly, we could probably pull this out now that I think about it. No, we shouldn't because I don't want to. It's fine. And then there's just very like precious little going on here, and we're able to get this all running the way that we want, and it looks nice. Like we got the effect. So I'm going to take that as a win. I feel pretty good about that. I had another idea for this that I thought I saw somebody do, and maybe it's somewhere else on this site. Let's actually look. I thought I saw somewhere in here that there was a section where like when you hovered over the copy, it turned into a hollow outline. Is it here? No. I don't know where this was. I thought it was in here somewhere where there was like a spot that hollowed out the text. But so I want to try that. Lando Norris text effect syntax challenge. Okay. So the thing that I want to figure out is I'm pretty sure that I can get the like when we hover, I want this text to go hollow and just be an outline. And I think this is fairly straightforward if I remember correctly. So what I'm going to try is text stroke a thing? Am I making that up? A WebKit text stroke. So this isn't going to be, this isn't going to have baseline support, but hopefully it'll look cool. Immediately, this doesn't look cool. What on earth is, why? Why would you do something so gross? That's trash.
Oh no.
Okay, maybe this won't be as nice as I thought. Well, that's really unfortunate that that does that. Are there any settings for this? Is there anything web standard about it? Because that would be nice. Do they have a C also? Introducing texture. Okay, that's on there. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Text fill color. Okay, let's try the text fill color and see what happens here. Come on, back to normal. No, it still does the goofy thing. Gross. Fine. Never mind. Can't have nice things. You can you can kind of fake it with text shadow, but I was hoping to get it internal. So in order to do that, we'd end up with like we could do it with SVG. I've done it before. I've got an example on here somewhere. Like this is all SVG text, but that's not the one I was thinking of. Somewhere in here is one that I did that's still selectable. But it had to be in an SVG, and I don't love it. For you. Here. So this is like, so no JavaScript going, and you can kind of see like all the text is here and you can select it and all that good stuff. But it's like this, it turns into a whole thing. And I don't know that this wouldn't support it. It might support the span thing, but I feel like it wouldn't. Yeah, I think this just isn't. I think what I want to do isn't in the cards, so it's fine. We can. I see like my most recent. Yeah. So this, I mean, I'm happy with this though. This did what we want. My goal to experiment with it a little bit and like play with the outlining of the text has been foiled, but you know, I'm happy. I'm happy. Text shadow can get complicated. Yeah, that's exactly it, right? And it would be outside, and I don't actually want it to be outside. What I would be looking for is when I hover, having the inside of the text. So like a 2 pixel inside border that would be this white color, and then having the text itself be set to the background or to be clear, so that we would have kind of an outlining effect, and then we could fade that. I think it would look really cool, but it's I don't think it's going to work unless I get trixier than I want to get. Because what I love about this right now is I love that what we've done. None of this is a hack. None of it feels like a hack. It doesn't feel like we're doing anything weird. Is sibling index? I'm pretty sure sibling index is. This is actually a good question. nvn.io sibling index. Limited availability. So this won't work in Firefox and Safari. Yeah. That's fine. And like we could mess with nth child if we wanted to, and we could do a lot, but this is super cool and I like it, and I want to keep it. So yeah, and like honestly, if you don't have If you don't have this, the only difference would be that this wouldn't work on Firefox, so it would look like this instead, which is honestly just fine. So it gracefully degrades, does what I want. And if you have one of the browsers that supports sibling index, you get the outcome that I want. Cool. So that's a project, y'all. I feel pretty good at that. I'm gonna throw this one up on the old blue sky. Reproduce the Lando Norris text hover effect. And I don't want to toot my own horn. Yes, I do. Bam. Okay. Now what are we doing? What's the plan? I kind of thought that was going to take longer. If I'm being completely honest. Yeah, definitely could polybit with the inline style if we needed to. Could wrap it in supports. That's not a bad idea. Why not? Let's do it because that is a more responsible thing to do. Support sibling. Can I just throw it in like this? I need to look up how. That's not right. What just happened here? So to do supports, can you do supports for just the function syntax? Support, oh, so just no wrapper on it. Support symlink index. And that should work. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Nope, now it's broken. Okay. Why is it broken though? Shouldn't that work? Function syntax. Oh, this is not what I thought it was. Supports transform origin. Do I just need to like throw it into a nonsense rule? Do we not have a check? Can I use, does it show a check here? How to use at supports with sibling in index CSS. Somebody knows this. I don't know a lot of these sites. Feature queries. Grid detection is fine, but what I want is how to do it with the functions themselves. Don't know. What if I wrap it? Like, can it be that simple? What about this? Like, can you just duplicate the whole thing? That seems to work. Do I have Firefox to test this? Well, that at least doesn't break them. I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea if that's because of the supports check being checked or or if it's just the graceful fallback. But either way, it's fine. What happens? Actually, let's just try it without this. And then come back here, reload. And it still just falls back properly. I don't know. I feel like this is probably real. This doubling is super weird. I wish there was a way to just say like, does the function exist? And probably somebody knows this. But who knows? Well, so there wouldn't be a transition delay here because like it doesn't need a transition delay, right? Like it still looks good here. But I guess what we could do, since we're already in here, is we can probably get this to do something like, I mean, honestly, let's just look. Maybe it's already doing it for us. Does this give us any kind of like index in here? Okay, so currently there's no index. Why the hell is this aria hidden? Huh. Kind of. I mean, I guess that's fine because it still reads properly. It's a little weird. Whatever. Let's see if we can get it to do something like, I mean, why not, right? Like we got time. Now we can try to get it to add like an index or something. And so we should definitely be able to do the on split function if we need to. Prop index adds a CSS variable to each split element with its index, like word1, word2. Okay, so let's just set prop index to true. And that'll happen in our JavaScript. And now these should all have a character setting. And so what we should be able to do instead of this fallback is we will set we want to do this. We are going to set this to be delay is going to be this value. But then what we can try here is we will do their delay, but we'll fall back to care. This is bad, but it might work. That straight up broke it. That straight up broke it for everybody. So what I did here is not correct. And the reason it's not correct is I have extra, I'm missing parentheses. Okay, so that's still not working. So I got to think about this logically, because if, how would we do this? If we were going to oh yeah, this would have worked too. Yeah. If the calc works, couldn't you just do that 100% of the time? Well, the calc, so what the calc is doing, this is where I am. So basically what we need is we need a way. Well, okay. So yes, you're right that what we could do is we could swap out for like this, and then this would just become that, which then becomes this. There's my Safari window, which then becomes this, right? So this solves the problem, and I'm honestly, I'm happy with this. This is completely acceptable. However, on purely frustrating grounds, it would be neat to be able to use the sibling index, right? And so I don't know, it's probably fine. Like, I think there's, what about doing index as the sibling index and then calcing a delay falling back to supports? So like, supports, right, it doesn't matter what that is. We just need to make sure that it's using the thing. Then what we would want is the sibling index times, and let's make this really slow so that we can tell for sure that it's working. But if this is correct, then what'll happen is if it supports the sibling index, then our transition or our delay should be really long and like awkward. And that's not working. And that's not working because calc varchar. This should work though. Calc times 20 milliseconds, maybe that. Why wouldn't this work? Like, this is, what am I missing in here? What's wrong with this? Calc sibling index times 20 milliseconds. That's what we were doing before. That sets the delay. Oh, it is working, and it's just so slow that I thought it was broken. Okay, that's great. That's exactly what we wanted then. So then this gives us, okay, so this is a little bit of a like, so basically this is strictly so that we can say that we use the platform, right? Like, there's no real benefit to doing this because we've already got the character here. So it's just kind of a it's more of a flex than anything else, right? Um, and then the way that we could probably make this a little bit easier to understand is we could say index is going to be, and then we would do the supports would be like, what did you say it was? Flex grow sibling index. I think that's a little shorter. And then we can say that I is going to be I is going to be sibling index. And then down here, what we would do is we would use this. All right, so that's a little cleaner and should theoretically work. Let's double check that by temporarily setting this to 0. And then out here, what that should mean is it just goes to 0, right? Because it's not supported. And then in here, if we were, what the hell was that? We revert that, and then this continues to work because it's always falling back to the sibling index. But you now have the right fallback. So this feels like a little goofy to do it that way, but like kind of nice. And then back here, honestly, we don't even need to do this. We can just take this out here. Like why move it further from where it's being used, for at least for the purposes of what we're doing here. So this, I think, is a completely reasonable approach. This gives us our index based on GSAP split text if we don't have sibling index support. So this is fallback. And then this one uses the sibling index. Functionally, there's really no value in doing this other than just proving that it is cool to use CSS functions and features where they are available. Would this work? Sibling index. What a great question. So you're saying try to use the character, and if not, fall back. Well, hold on. Yeah, let's try this real quick because I think this could be interesting. So let's see how the fallbacks work because I haven't really played with this. So let's try I is going to be var I is going to be sibling index. And then delay is going to be var I or var char. And that's going to need to be calced times 20 milliseconds. And then down here, we will var delay. Okay, so works here. Does not work here. So the fallback doesn't work. Wonder what that, okay, so let's see. How do I get, do you get developer tools in here? History, bookmarks, window. I think I have. Do you get anything like that? I don't think you get developer tools in Safari. Or if you do, I don't know where they are. Yeah, there might be a way to make this work. I'm not sure. But my hunch then would be that this must evaluate to something that isn't that, like, breaks this expression, is the only thing I can think of. Um, or, like, maybe these nested I also don't know if you can nest variables like that. This is gonna be var I times 20 milliseconds. And if anybody figures that out, let me know, because it would be neat to have a way to do that type of, like, supports fallback right in CSS, because, like, this is fine. And honestly, in this case, because we're adding this to the markup anyways, there's not really any benefit to not just using this. But I could potentially see some scenarios where, mm, settings advanced show features. Settings advanced. Show features for web developers. There we go. Develop. Okay, so we got develop. Web inspector. There we go. If I come to one of these and I want to see what's computed, or no, we need the span. The span itself, transition delay of 0. Transition delay of 0. And that would be because, can we see what this is? Sibling index. Sibling index. That's got a value. But so the sibling index must just be getting stored as, like, text or something. Yeah, because if you remove that, then this falls back properly. So I think you still need the supports check. We just need to flip it around or something, to get that to work. So we'd have to do, like, how would that work? We'd still need the supports check. I don't think there's a way to one line that. How do I hide this here? Because once we refresh, we're functioning now, and that's because we switched to the fallbacks. So, okay. I don't 100% know. I don't know if we could take that much further, without getting into something else here. Oh, you know what we could do? This feels, because the spacing on this feels a little goofy to me, right? And I want to tighten it up. So one thing that we can do in here is, I'm going to look up, it's mdn.io text box trim, I think it is. This is also limited availability, but it's cool when it works. So what I want is down here in the related stuff, it should show me text spacing trim and text box trim. So check this out. If I do trim both on here and full width punctuation characters, internal spacing. Oh, this isn't even the one that I need to worry about. So it was the other one that I cared about. It's text box trim. So text box trim does a thing that I use in Figma all the time, which is set the top and bottom to be trimmed to their own thing. So watch this. Right now, if we set these to have a background of, let's say, yellow. Ooh, let's try a different color. Red. Okay. See how much space is above and below them? So theoretically, this works. I get that wrong. Text box trim. Should be trim both, and that should do what I want. Why is that not working? Do I need to add it to the spans? That's not it. Can I get away with this? Why isn't that working? I've literally used this before. What have I done here? That makes no impact. I wonder what that's for. Line height is 1, overflow is hidden. Text box trim both. That should flatten this up. It's not doing it. Man, I thought that was going to be so cool. Let's see. Let's see if I can figure this out, because that text box trim, text box edge. Text box edge should be cap alphabetic. So is that what I need? I feel like this isn't being applied at all, and that's strange. Because like what I'm after is what the manual tuning here would give me. But I don't like this because you can see this is kind of, it gets a little slapdash, right? Like you're sort of ballparking this stuff, which I don't love. And what I want is for these to do this for me, where they should be trimming to the thing. There we go. Oh. So you need both of them in order for them to what? Weird. Okay, so it's demanding both of those in order to function. Then check this out. Now it's even a little bit cleaner because they like occupy exactly the space that they should be occupying on the page, right? So that's, I mean, we're deep into minutia land here, so this isn't who knows. Does the Devon you're defining the edge so it knows where to trim to. Yeah, I'm confused though why. Let's see if it says something in the docs here, because this is kind of a weird text box edge. So the text box edge CSS property specifies an amount of space to trim from a text element's block container. So vertical spacing, difference between fonts, typesetting is historically challenging. This is why I love this feature. Text box edge, along with its counterpart property text box trim, which specifies which edges to trim. Oh, makes consistent typesetting easier to achieve. Text box edge has no effect if text box trim is not set or is set to none. The text box can be used to specify text box edge and text box trim in a single value declaration. Okay. So that feels like maybe what I wanted. So let's see if this is doing what I want. Let's try it. So if I take both of these, place them with this one. No, that's not it. But maybe go back to cap alphabetic, which is what we were using originally. That does it. Okay. So cool. All right. So text box is what I was looking for. That gives me the feature that I'm after. I like it. I enjoy this. This feels good. And then again, because it's trimmed directly to the edge, if we set that background to red, you can see when we zoom way in, there's no bleed here. So it's exactly occupying the space that it occupies. And again, the reason that's cool is because if we, and then it should override this too. Let's see. It does. And then that gives us a fallback because, and the reason that's great is that if I come in here and I turn this off, even though this is close, you see how there's a little bit of red peeking above and below the text here. And I could like finagle that number to get as close as I could, but it's never going to be exactly right because we're almost trimming the bottom of Twitter here, but not TikTok for some reason, right? Like they're not exactly right. So if you get these too close with an overflow hidden, it'll start to actually trim the text when it's at rest, which is bad. So the introduction of this one gives us the ability to have like perfectly consistent spacing between letters, which to me is just one of those things that like usually it's not a problem, but like every once in a while this stuff it just doesn't line up and it feels weird and it's not it's just it gets cranky. But yeah, let's see. Looking see, Vinny, I see what you sent me in the setup here. So you said I'm just going to pull this in as you said. Let's give it a shot. Let's see if we can make it work. So I'm going to comment this out. Try it again. We've got our sibling index here. We've got our variable going to the sibling index or falling back to the character. And then we're going to take the transition delay and we want to use delay falling back to 0. Does that not like something? Okay, that's saved. Okay, works fine here, as expected. Let's go out to Safari, refresh the page. Yeah, it's not working out here. So I think it has something to do with sibling index not being supported, but causing CSS and Safari to believe something. Like it thinks this is a thing, even though it doesn't know what that thing is. So it doesn't use the fallback. It tries to use this, as far as I can tell, which ends up evaluating to 0 when it gets cast. So we might be able to do, no, we wouldn't because it is supposed to be a number. So yeah, I think there might be maybe somebody who is a real CSS wizard knows a workaround that I don't, but in the meantime, I think this two-phase supports block is the way to get there. Now it's broken. Oh, because we changed it from Need to use that again. There it is. Cool. Right? Feels good. So one. Okay, from a UX standpoint, what do y'all think? What do y'all think is the right way to handle these gaps? Because they feel a little goofy to me, like we're getting kind of an odd delay. So from a UX design standpoint, is it better? Right now we've got a gap, right? So is it better to leave that gap, or do we set the gap to 0, which will smash these into each other, and then set padding 2.25 EM? Ooh, that's too much. Why is that so much? Padding is not the right call. Padding is absolutely the wrong call. Yeah, never mind. I think because what I was thinking is that maybe we want a bit of a hitbox outside of the text so that these could be separated, but not. But you know what? I actually think it's fine. Yeah, it's totally fine. Not gonna stress about it. Yeah, I think I my intention wasn't to get rid of the gaps, but rather to make the gaps part of the hitbox so that there'd be like just a little bit of empty space around each one that would be still hitbox. But I don't think that's going to work with the way the trimming is working. So we need we'd have to put a container inside of the link that would then become the overflow wrapper, and it starts to get messy. Like, going back to how nice this looks, if we had to start wrapping these with more stuff, I just feel like that wouldn't actually feel good in the end of it all. So taking that as a win. Okay. So we got like almost, I mean, we got it functional in 30 minutes, and then we took a solid hour tweaking and playing and kind of micro optimizing. But I feel okay. I feel like that's pretty good. What now? What now? What do we do? Like an hour left on the clock, or we can bail. Oh yeah, we could before after some stuff. That could be all right. Yeah, the overflow is the issue because when we add the padding, it I'll show you again. It gets real goofy, real weird. Padding block. Actually, I'll just do like a 20 pixels. You can see it kind of immediately blows out the whole thing, right? Which isn't ideal. We could work around that. We would just need a whole thing. Let's play with let's try it. Let's see what happens. Because maybe that does something. Let's start with just the before. Do a content of empty. We'll do a display block. We'll position inline size. We can do at 100%. And then we'll block size at 10 pixels. And we'll background red. Why isn't that working? What am I missing? Before. It's got a display. It's got content. Does the content need to be real? That's not it. Inline size. Let's just set a pixel value for. Okay. So that's something. And then what we would probably need to do here is we're display flexing That's not doing it, is it? Yeah, we could probably figure this out, but I feel like we're kind of getting into weird stuff, and it's not actually gonna. I actually don't even know that it's the right idea. It honestly could make it more confusing because I think you want a little bit of space between, like, theoretically having your mouse not click here is probably good because which one are you clicking on if that's a hitbox? And there would be like a really fine line where you'd be clicking on one or the other just by moving a pixel this way or that way. So having a dead zone is probably better, honestly. I think for the animation, I don't love it. And I think if I was selling this to a client, I might try to figure out a way to have a non-clickable like zone. Um yeah, it's fine. It's totally fine. I think I'm happy with this. Uh Very hard to ideas over stream. I know, especially with the delay, like, YouTube is killing me because I didn't realize that the delay on YouTube is like 20 minutes or 20 minutes, like 20 seconds. So a lot of times I have I'm like already moved on and then I have to kind of loop back to what we were talking about because the things don't show up so fast. Overflow wrapper would probably be the best bet. Yeah, I think you're right. And it's not really what I want. I think if I feel like the goal would be to try and put it and honestly, I'm not even sure. Okay, this is gonna look wild, but let me get rid of the gap just to see if it actually feels better when there's no distance between the two. Like, that judder is still kinda there. So I actually feel like what I would want, and maybe there's not an answer. Like, maybe this is just one of those things that sorta it's just a little bit cursed. Um 'Cause what I would want is, like, a little bit of a delay after you moused off to let it sort of finish the animation. So kind of a minimum amount of animation to do before it would mouse back in. Because like, that feels goofy, and I kinda feel like what I would want is for it to go at least, say, at least 150 or 160 milliseconds or something so that we would get kind of like a bloop, like bloop, bloop kinda thing. But I don't know. So Zach, we have been recreating this feature from the bottom of the Lando Norris site, which is whoa, down here. Ooh, the active state is cool. It's too. Wait, does that not work? That didn't mark it as active. Oh, bummer. Oh, that's the highlight that does that. I mean, that's cool though that they did the highlight. I think that's a nice touch when people actually think that through and decide what their highlight text color is going to be. Make sure it's got good contrast, et cetera, et cetera. Because I bet ours looks wild right now. Yeah, it looks like crap. So we'd want to fix that and make sure that it functions. Also, what happens if we copy paste this? I'm always curious when you do like a big span thing. Let's make a new doc. Woo! Garbage, just pure garbage. So that's a thing that I don't love. I guess it's not the end of the world because this isn't really like seems pretty unlikely that somebody would want to just copy paste your text. But I guess the way to work around that would be this starts getting into silly workarounds. You'd probably need some kind of uh, you could either use JavaScript so that if somebody like copied it, you could change what goes into their clipboard, which I hate. You could hide a second span that doesn't have the text and it would be transparent, but it would be the other one would be cursor pointer or cursor events none. so that when you highlighted, you'd only highlight the hidden one. But then that could mess with voiceover. I don't even know. I don't even know how all that stuff works. Could use before and after to split and hide the span. What a great question. Maybe, like, perhaps. Delay wise, just calc plus 100 milliseconds. What do you mean? Well, but you can't fit the. Oh, like stop it. Wow, that could feel weird. Let's try it. Let's try it. Let's see what happens if we say we're not going to start the transition for 40 seconds. Because then if you mouse over it real quick, it doesn't do anything. Still feels good when you hit it, but a little less weird when you just like fly across this thing. Ooh, that's a good, you know what? Good idea. Good idea, Cubic. I think that solved all of my, like, because I didn't like that it felt jittery. Because without this delay, let's just revert here for a second. Without this delay, it's just kind of like jittery and like goofy, right? So just a little bit, like 40 milliseconds, which is barely perceptible when you hit it. You don't get that jitteriness, right? So like if you're here and you want to go up to this one, it just gives you that little bit of extra time to make sure that you're actually wanting to hit it. Yeah, that feels really good. Feels really good. If using ARIA tags, it wouldn't mess with things. I think you're right, and I think that's why they're doing it the way they're doing it here, which is to have they're hiding these spans and they're having it just announce blue sky up there as the label. But copying is there. Yeah. You know what I should try? How does that work? How does this look? I can't read when it's that small. We go wide, tall, that's too much. Regular, medium, is that legible? That's pretty legible. And then people can see what's going on. You can also see when your comments show up here. That should maybe help. What is... I don't actually know what that symbol is. I wonder if that's like a Twitter encoding thing, like it's taking the emoji code and throwing it into something weird and double escaping it. It's kind of what it looks like. Anyways, I'm happy. I feel really good about this. So, Unicode emote, that was what I was thinking, yeah. Where else are we at? What else we got going on here? We in good shape? Feeling all right? Everybody's happy? I'm feeling pretty happy. What else do we want? Want to do anything else today? Where am I at? I'm on. Sorry, I got like a bunch of weird pings on Discord. I was making sure everything's cool. Yeah, copy event listener could definitely do it. If this was not social links, I think I would maybe think about it a little bit. But like this feels good. I feel like we're in good shape here. And we've got the fallback going on browsers that don't respect sibling index. And we get rid of our jitter. Well, mostly get rid of our jitter. Yeah, I think this looks great. I'm happy. Let's throw this in the thing here. Now, did this work? Oh, man, something broke. We had a bot that would throw links into the show links channel on Discord, which if you're not part of the Discord, you can get in there, codetv.link/Discord. Jump in right there, and you'll be able to see just talk to the community, hang out when we post links, new episodes, et cetera, et cetera. They show up in that Discord. That's usually the first place that you'll hear about things. What do I normally do in office hours? What a great question. Usually what we do in office hours is we just slowly spiral and see how philosophical we can get over the span of 2.5 hours. But we talk a lot about work, things like that, and yeah, philosophize. That's the word. I'm steadily making my way toward being a just an armchair philosopher. That's really all I want to be. So yeah, trying to think. I mean, there's not too much going on here. I have yeah, lament the state of the world in the industry. Uh, if you want to see the demos, I mean, I'd love to see demos. Hit me. I always want to see demos. Yeah, if you're in the Discord, that's probably the easiest place. We've got like a whole channel set up for show and tell of cool demos and stuff. Which that would be I'd love to see that. I mean, if you don't want to do that, you can also shoot me a DM or something. But yeah, let's see what's going on in the world. How did the oh yeah, Web Dev Challenge. So we just wrapped Web Dev Challenge season 2. We have the episode 11 is the most recent one that came out. That was with Twilio. It's the hotline. We've got the challenge is going on right now. If you want to get into, let's see, codetv.link/wc/hackathon. Is that going to the right place? Yes, it is. So let me drop this link here. You can jump into the hackathon that's going on right now. And so what we're doing with this hackathon is we've got the episode came out. It's about building your own hotline. Twilio's got some really cool stuff. It's called Conversation Relay, which is speech to text and text to speech. And that is ostensibly a way to talk to your LLMs, but it's actually a way to talk to whatever you want. And so what I find really interesting about this is you can use it for something like natural language parsing, which is a very cool, a cool part of the AI wave that's been around since before AI was a hype thing. And you can do something like say, all right, I'm kind of interested in learning more about thing. Use the NLP to determine what the intent was of that, and then call one of your various APIs. You could do that with MCP if you want to do it in a fully AI way and like make it an agent and make it kind of autonomous, or you can just build a program, right? So your program could just be, these are our API endpoints, and determine what this person is asking for, and then fire off the endpoint, and the endpoint responds back with like a list, and then it can read the list, and it doesn't have to be AI, right? It can just be reading, which is pretty sweet. So I like that. But the goal here was to come up with a hotline, and you've still got time. You've got until Friday to come up with a hotline. And this one's especially fun because the way we're doing it, let me pull up the screen again. The way we're doing this one is you can actually win just for having a good idea. So ideally, because it's what's near and dear to my heart, you've got a minute to build something. So, fire up Conversation Relay, learn a little bit about how that stuff works, put together a hotline. There are like, you don't need to do all of the regulatory stuff with a Twilio number. If you're calling in, it's only if you want it to call or text out. And if you watch the episode, you can see there's some really interesting stuff here where like Pedro and Brian were able to set it up where you could call it, and then while you're on the phone with it, you could also text it an image, and it would like read the image and say, in their case, it was about Pokemon. So it was like, hey, what Pokemon am I looking at? And you'd send it a text message, and it would say, oh yeah, that's an image of a Pikachu, and here's some stats about Pikachu. It was really interesting. Loved the kind of multimodal approach to it. And so you can do that as well. What we also had was like Dibs and Avi set it up to where you would call in and you would say, hey, what food is nearby, right now. And it would do, I can't remember exactly how that one worked because I don't know how it was getting location. It was getting like rough location, and then it was finding stuff that was within 20 minutes of you. I don't know if they were using like a web call for that. I'd have to actually look at how they did it. But they were able to kind of figure out, all right, I'm calling in. I want to figure out what's close. Oh, I remember what it was. I'm at the corner of X and Y, and I want to find pizza that's within a 10-minute walk. And it would come back and say, like, here are pizza places and here's some reviews. And then it could text you the list or like a link to like a list that had reviews and cool stuff like that. Like it's, these are the sorts of practical things that I actually do want to exist where, sometimes um I'm trying to get some info. Maybe I don't have my computer. Be kind of nice to just be like, hey, what am I, what does my calendar look like today? And it could just send me a text that says, here are like the 10 things on your calendar today, because usually there are 10 things on my calendar. What time is Friday deadline? I'm gonna say by midnight. If you get in by midnight Pacific, you are all good. But yeah, I think remember, agentic is a synonym for cron job. You're not wrong. um, but so these are the sorts of things that I think are this is pretty fun. So this is episode 11. Now we have 2 episodes left in the season. We have recorded both of them. One of them was here in the studio in Portland. That was with Open Router, and everybody was working on coming up with a good kind of e-commerce experience, something to take it a little bit further than what was possible before this wave of like new tools. And then the second one was at Intuit's campus in San Diego. I really like this one. I love working with Intuit because I'm working with their recruiting team actually. And so they're looking to hire, also, if you're looking for a job, Intuit has a ton of jobs open right now, from like entry level all the way up through principal. They've got open roles. So if you're looking for a software job, that is a great place to go reach out to. They have a lot of opportunities, a lot of campuses. It is a hybrid role, so they will handle relos. But if you are willing to relocate or live close to one of their campuses, they're hiring a lot right now. So anyways, end of ad. But we went down to their campus in San Diego, and their challenge wasn't like, hey, use these Intuit tools. It was use the tools you would use if you worked here. So it was like build a full stack app that in that one, it was kind of like do something delightful. And the idea was to make something that was so delightful that people couldn't help but share it. So can't wait for those to come out. I think they like love the devs that we had on. There's some familiar faces on there, some new faces on there. I think you're really going to enjoy them. As as we've gone on with Web Dev Challenge, I've been really blown away with how much faster everybody can move. And I think that's due in part to, one, people know the format now. So they have a little more time to think ahead of like, okay, here's how I'm going to structure things. People are getting better at scoping, so they know where to put their cut points, so that they're kind of always working in terms of next demoable step, so that it's easy to just kind of keep adding features until you run out of time, and know that you just kind of roll back to the last complete feature and you're good to go. And then there's also the fact that like there's truly a lot of interesting stuff happening in the space right now. We've kind of poisoned the well on AI, because I think that the way people talk about it is just so absurd. But we've had the things that are being called AI for a long time. We've had different flavors of machine learning and computer vision and speech to text and natural language processing, and all those sorts of things have been around for a lot longer than we've been trying to convince the entire world to give all of its money, quite literally, to like 3 people. But then, uh, yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of conflict about this, because like on the one hand, I don't want to support the AI hype wave, and on the other hand, there really are cool things. Like the technological possibilities in there are really cool, and a lot of them don't require setting up, infinite data centers and burning all the world's water and electricity. Like there's stuff that's cool to do that doesn't require infinite compute, and it doesn't require giving away all of the intellectual property in the country, and so on and so forth. Like, you can just recognize what's in an image. And that's stuff that we've had for a really long time. There have been open source models that can do pretty good image classification for a really, really long time. And there are things that can process human speech. And like, I kind of love the idea of being able to interact with a website the way that Star Trek interacts with the computer, like being able to pop open the website and heat up the mic and say like, hey, what's the latest blog post? And it just does. And like, that's cool. That is cool. It's objectively cool. It's a thing that we've all wanted for forever. It just sucks that so much of that has been tied to like these really silly, goofy incentives of like, oh, we can replace everybody on Earth with an AI in 6 months. Yeah, I think that's a whole thing. There is a jobs channel in Discord. So again, go back to the Discord and you can keep up with jobs. We also encourage people to post jobs as long as it's a job for a company you can vouch for. Like, we don't just want to spam with jobs. Ideally, it's for a company that you would be willing to work for if you were looking for a job, or that somebody you know and respect works there. Because we're not trying to feed people to the meat grinder. Let's see. Let's see what else we got here. We got make the copy text work instead of having the display flex. You have to keep it display block, and then it copies properly. But you optimize things here due to the block. Okay, yeah, that could make sense. Let's see. Have a jobs channel. Yeah, jobs channel in Discord. Make sure you check that out. Love it if we could just get rid of calling everything AI and just call the tools what they are. Yes, 100% agree. And I think this is sort of what we're landing on now is I'm seeing the early wave of executives are starting to pull back from like the really breathless endorsement of AI, and they're starting to make more pragmatic statements about like, the future is driven by building the right tools so that skilled people can wield the things that get called AI effectively. So we'll see. We'll see, right? Like, I think we've all rightfully had our faith in a lot of the people in charge burned. So I don't have any faith that like this particular crop of executives is going to suddenly become rational and reasonable human beings. But I think that there is hope that we'll see, maybe the ones that are most problematic will just figure out what the next thing is and continue to make millions of dollars for effectively nothing, and that thus continues the circle of grift. But I think a lot of the folks who are good executives, they saw money, and capitalism is broken in some very specifically weird ways. So they knew that they could make some money. That's literally their job, is to make sure next quarter's return looks good. So they pounced, they boosted next quarter's return numbers, and now they're realizing that the next quarter probably won't be boosted on AI, or maybe this quarter will, but not the one after that. So they're kind of carefully starting the process of distancing themselves from the AI as a miracle hype. And I think we're going to see in 26, really hope that it's not like government bailouts and people like Sam Altman just get to pocket a bunch of money for basically selling everybody a pocket full of lies. But it's either going to be that, or it's going to be that, things like OpenAI will default on some of their bigger loans, and they'll end up getting absorbed by companies like Microsoft, because it'd be reasonably straightforward for Microsoft to just kind of like take over OpenAI's debt and just own it, which to me kind of feels like the play they've been making the whole time is like, we'll get so funded, it will get so deep into the red tape with OpenAI that if they struggle at all, it just becomes our company. So that's my hunch, is that we're going to see that, and I don't know, we'll see. I mean, yeah, like data centers in space. They're talking about data centers in like the ocean. They're talking about data centers in all these places. But I think the bigger concern that I have about a lot of this stuff is like, yeah, one, space junk is a whole thing. Like, at some point in the future, maybe not in our lifetimes, but at some point we're gonna have to come to terms with the fact that we've effectively started treating Earth orbit as a junkyard, and we just shoot crap up into it, and we're like, "That's fine. It'll, we'll never see that again. Space is huge. Who cares?" Uh, but who knows, right? But yeah, like boosting the share price and losing tons of money on AI. That's the whole thing. Um, and I think that that's sort of the challenge that we have right now is that it was an investing bubble, and there was a chance for people to make a ton of money by investing at the right time and watching the shares go up, but then we're starting to see some intensely weird stuff, not even weird, I guess, just kind of predictable stuff. People are dumping, like notable people are dumping all their Nvidia shares, and we're starting to see like a little bit of the the bellwether folks, the more cautious investors, like they're divesting from the big AI bubble. And my hunch is that that's usually a sign that that things are going to get a little bit dark. And now granted, like the same thing happened with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's value continues to go up, but I don't know, it never became like a viable thing, right? It's like a niche thing. It's like a game that you play. It's like being a professional poker player, right? Like you can get really, really good at trading Bitcoin and like maybe you can make some money off of it, but it's not like a business, right? Like I don't know. I think we'll see the same thing with AI where a lot of the AI stuff is going to turn into sort of like a narrowly scoped um maybe there will be speculative markets on AI like there are on Bitcoin, but the vast majority of it is like you don't really see a lot of people hyping up blockchain. You don't see a ton of investment. Like there is some, but not a ton of investment in blockchain. And I feel like when companies use blockchain, they kind of don't talk about it. They like keep it a secret because it's got such a radioactive like stigma attached to it. And I'm kind of wondering if we're going to see the same thing about AI where companies will come out and they'll, instead of being like we're the AI for dogs, they'll say something like, we use advanced natural language processing to let you communicate with your pets. Um, which is, exactly what an AI for dogs company would have done, but they wouldn't have done that. Like they would have raised on we're AI for dogs, and investors would have thrown them, a $50 million seed round for some reason. And now they're going to have to like use the actual terms and explain what they do because it's such a like saying AI for X at this point is like a garbage term. It's how are you going to prove to your customers that it's not just another useless chatbot that doesn't actually do anything? And I think, this was the same thing happened with the crypto stuff where the argument basically became it's crypto for thing and like things should be on the blockchain. And right now we're doing the same thing. We're saying like it's AI for X and everything should be on AI. And we're all kind of, I don't think anybody is under the illusion that this has been good, right? Like AI for X has largely been what if we took the interface, we made it non-deterministic and basically into a chatbot and removed your ability to speak to a human. Like we've always hated that. We've hated that since IVR got introduced on phones. Like I want to call, like I pay extra to be on a credit card so that when I call to talk about a flight reservation, they know my phone number and they answer the phone and say like, "Hello, Mr. Lengstorf, how can we help you today?" Literally, legitimately, that's a luxury experience now, right? And I think this is maybe the thing. I was talking to Marissa, my wife, and some of our friends, and I think the most cynical and scariest thing about all of this, we're worried that the upshot of all of this is that things like human interaction are going to become premium experiences, and it's going to be like you can go on. I think is it BetterHelp is the um, BetterHelp is that the one that's got the find a therapist? Yeah, online therapy. So, like, you're gonna go to something like BetterHelp, and it's gonna say, "Yeah, you can talk to a therapist. It's AI." Now, if you want to talk to a real person, that's our premium plan, and it costs $200 a month or something. And so effectively what'll end up happening is that because AI allows us to punish people for being poor by making them deal with automations because it's cheaper for companies, being able to get human help in any way is going to start becoming a premium experience. And so my biggest fear is that the upshot of this is that companies basically decide like, well, AI sucks, but it doesn't suck so much that we shouldn't use it. It just sucks enough that we're going to use it as a way to punish people who can't afford to upgrade to our premium plan, which is the one that works. Um, Anyways, keep an eye out for that and be very vocally against it if you see it, because that feels like one of those ones that if we let companies normalize that, it's going to turn into the only way to exist. Kind of like how we got really excited about defeating the cable companies, only to have the streamers turn into something worse than the cable companies. Um, and now they're just kind of reforming into cable companies that charge significantly more for their bundled products. So hey, why not? It's probably fine. It's probably fine. Dangled carrots on a 6-foot pole instead of a 10-foot pole for a monthly fee. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what I mean is we know that this is what companies want, right? They want you when you call in to not talk to a person, because if they don't have to employ people, then they don't have to pay for people. And so they hope that their IVR is good enough that you are able to solve your problem by, like, tell me what you want to talk about today. And you say, representative, it's like, okay, but first, here are some things that we have to do. And it's still trying to like automate you away from talking to a person. And then of course, when you get through to the person, they solve your problem in 10 seconds and like, it's fine. There will probably be ads in AI. Yeah, they're talking about that already. That's probably going to happen. I think that'll be pretty terrible. Yeah, I mean, I don't. As I've been getting older, I've actually stopped being so opposed to talking to people. I actually kind of like it. Like, if I go to a website and I can't do the thing that I want to do for my dashboard quickly, it's so much faster to just like call somebody and be like, "Hey, I'm on your website. This thing's not working. What do I do?" And they just fix it, because otherwise I'd like, how long would I spend in a support forum Googling, et cetera, et cetera? 10-minute call, it's solved, right? That's been something. I think that's also a side effect of production, is it's just a very like phone heavy industry when you get into video production. Like, everybody's calling and texting instead of emailing and using websites, because everybody's website sucks. Yeah, blockchain is a worse, more expensive database. AI is a worse, more expensive computer. I think that is very, very true. Yeah, I mean, just a whole thing, right? But yeah, I think like I'm ultimately, we're not doing this anymore. We're doing something else. Let me turn this on. Office hours. Can I spell my own name right? I can. But yeah, so I mean, I think like from my standpoint, the biggest challenge that we have is that are y'all familiar with the concept of the Overton window? I feel like we talk about it on social media a reasonable amount. It's the idea is that there's sort of this like frame for what is acceptable to discuss. And I would say the most powerful example of this, the most depressing example of this recently, has been the panic about trans people. We had over the course of like the previous 10 15 years kind of made some good progress on where it just wasn't like, it wasn't a thing you needed to talk about. You didn't really worry about whether somebody was gay or trans or in a same-sex marriage or things like that. Like a lot of and now let me be clear, it's not like we were cool with it and everybody was just fine with it and there weren't any problems. But I mean, like in media in general, there was largely this sort of acceptance that like that's the way things were, and it wasn't a thing to comment on or discuss or question. Then we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years this heavy push to make it like the talking point. and to sort of like drag the public conversation into whether or not it's okay to be trans in any way. And they start by talking about, trans women in sports and like, is that allowed? And then they make it about trans women in bathrooms and is that allowed? And then they make it about, can trans women be in public places at all? And is that allowed? And it just kind of like ratchets up from being not a discussion. Like we were not talking, nobody was worried about this. Nobody was thinking about it at all, except for these fringe groups that are always mad about everything. And then politicians made it part of their platforms and they made it a talking point. Idiots like J.K. Rowling spent a ton of their billions of dollars on like funding like hate campaigns about it. And it just kind of dragged this into the public sphere as a thing we're talking about now. And because we all engaged with it, it became okay to discuss it. Like having an opinion on it was now, well, that's just what the topic is. Like, of course, there's going to be a for and against. Whereas before, we'd almost, and we weren't there, but we had almost gotten to the point where like it wasn't okay to discuss whether or not somebody was allowed to exist. We were just, well, of course they are. Why would you bring that up? Right. And I would say it's in a same way that we just like norms, social norms shift over time. And that is the Overton window. We're sort of dragging what is and isn't okay to discuss into like one frame or another. And I think that our goal should always be to push the Overton window toward looking at people real cockeyed if they start bringing up stuff like whether or not somebody deserves to exist, right? If that's the question, nobody should look at that and go, you know what? Let's debate that. They should look at you. Why are you talking about that? Of course they do. There's no world where a person isn't allowed to exist, right? Like that's just silly. And I think that and we let it happen through these kind of like bits and inches. I'm worried that right now what's happening with AI is that it's dragging the Overton window into like on the fringes, there's discussions about whether or not AI should have rights and things like that. And it's kind of like, okay, let's maybe pump the brakes on that. Let's think about the people who don't have rights before we worry about the machines. But then there's this other piece of it that I think is really interesting, which is it's sort of like slowly pushing what is okay to be not operated by a human. And some of that is like, I don't know, like, and I don't really know where I stand on some of this stuff because, like, for example, Waymo is an autonomous vehicle, and I have used Waymos. I'm not necessarily opposed to Waymos. I don't I don't like not having jobs for people, but I also really hate the gig economy, and I think that, like, turning everybody into an Uber driver is bad, actually. Um, but at the same time, like, Waymo's not providing alternatives. Like, anyways, this is kind of like a me arguing with myself. But I think the thing that I worry about in a lot of these situations is, like, if we're pushing toward whether or not it's okay for, like, a person by default to live their entire life never interacting with another person, I don't want that to ever be an acceptable point of conversation. And I think what we're seeing is that these companies are sort of pushing for that. Like your best friend is an AI, your girlfriend is an AI, your therapist is an AI, your doctor is an AI. And suddenly you can sort of like start to imagine for real somebody who is living in the way of like Ready Player One or that Bruce Willis movie Surrogates or those not like The Matrix because I feel like The Matrix is a different plot, but that general idea of you sort of like put on your headset and the world that you interact with is one that you've sort of curated to be to your taste, but you're never actually living, right? Like I think there was this conversation that happened where Elon Musk was talking about something and somebody was, pushing back on it because he doesn't make a lot of sense when he talks. And Joyce Carol Oates quoted it and said something to the effect of like, it's sad that when you see these ultra rich people talk, that they never talk about anything that resembles human experience. They only talk about like what they have or what they what they can do or who they hate. They never talk about like their families or their pets or like a cool place that they went or a neat thing they experienced or a book they read. And that I think cut to the core of something that is happening, right? Like when you let somebody effectively divest themselves from all human interaction. I would say somebody like Elon Musk, because he has so much money, has been able to more or less remove everybody from his life that doesn't do exactly what he wants, right? He's surrounded himself by only people who respond the way that he wants them to respond, who do the things he wants them to do. And anybody who doesn't do that, he just sort of pushes away. And then, through his social media website, he can kind of manipulate reality to be what he wants it to be. Um, and that's, I think, a fairly like if you watch the way that billionaires talk, they're in the group chats. They're kind of they don't really interact with anybody else, and that I think is not great. We've kind of seen how a small homogenous group can radicalize, and I think we've seen that happen in a lot of different ways. And I would say the billionaires right now are radicalizing in a way that was not expected. Like I didn't expect to see investors leading the charge for like destroying democracy and huge swaths of humanity, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that because they're in their bubble and social media kind of challenges them by saying like, billionaires shouldn't exist, which I'm sure doesn't feel nice to have people wishing for your death all the time. Not saying that nobody else is at fault here. Like we're all pretty broken on social media, but they're radicalizing. And I think the reason they're radicalizing is because they have no external stimulus. It's not one that they invite in. And who's going to welcome discomfort intentionally? Like choosing to be challenged is a skill that you have to learn. And if there's nobody there to mentor you who's not going to let you get away with taking the easy way out, why would you ever opt into that? And I think we're seeing that people don't. They take the easy path, they block off discomfort. And if you have enough money, you can eliminate literally every discomfort. You can have somebody raise your kids, you can have somebody take care of your house, do all your chores, do the parts of your business you don't want to deal with, respond to the people you don't want to respond with. Don't want to deal with somebody? Fine. Ignore them until they try to sue you and then let your lawyers deal with that instead. You're so insulated that like you can probably, if you're a billionaire who doesn't have a narcissistic need to be in the public eye, and I think there are a lot of those. I read this article recently that like billionaires will just kind of rent out facilities so that they can exist in them without having to see anybody else. So they'll go to like a wellness spa and just kind of rent the whole thing so that they and their close circle are able to use it without having to interact with anyone else. Um, that to me is like the sort of gilded version of what I worry will happen everywhere. Because if you exist in a world that is algorithmically designed to keep you engaged in it, there's a very scary future in there where if like companies are able to make all the decisions about what you see and they have all of your information because literally everything now is getting connected and consolidated. If you just wake up in the morning and put on your headset and go into a world that is mostly AI generated, who's left to nudge you? Who's left to challenge you? And if all of the things that can challenge you are built on system prompts written by people who want you to do certain things that benefit them, right? Like we know what the Grok system prompt is on Twitter, and we've seen some of the, if you remember the like the Mecha Hitler moment where they're basically trying to force it to be more right wing because that's what Elon wanted, right? So imagine all the subtle ways that this stuff will be used to sort of spin the entire world. We already know, like, there's almost no chance that we get 100, 200 years down the road and people aren't looking back going like, man, remember, like it's going to be like the opium dens. Like, holy shit, that was such a terrible thing. I can't believe we ever allowed anybody to do that. And here we are like mainlining all of human outrage all day long through every possible sensory perception, right? If we keep doing this, right, it can't be good. And so I imagine there's going to be really interesting research papers, assuming we survive this as a species, about all the terrible ways that we were just overloading our little monkey brains with just too much. You can't be this mad all the time. It doesn't work. But yeah, I mean, I think like they should be millionaires, not dead. I agree. Tax them. Don't eat them. Right? That's silly. The eat the rich thing is silly. Tax the rich, and we've seen this in practice working really well. They just did. Where was it? It was. Let me find the thing. Millionaire tax. It was in Massachusetts. Where's it at? Where's it at? Look at this. This is good stuff. And this is the thing that we should be paying attention to, because like a millionaire tax in Massachusetts, $5.7 billion in additional revenue, which funds public transit, it funds libraries, teachers, like making people have a quality of life that doesn't suck. And the thing that everybody was worried about was that so it was like a $3 billion extra revenue. And the thing that everybody was worried about is that there would be like millionaires fleeing the state because of that, right? And this all happened without forcing high profile departures. And let's see, do they have, let's see, infuriated business leaders who complain that it makes a step less competitive and drives away the wealthy, right? So whole issues there. But other anecdotes of bold-faced names or companies ditching Massachusetts are harder to come by. It's basically like we've kind of seen that when you tax people, it's not like they lose their money, right? Like if you pay a reasonable tax, it doesn't bankrupt the wealthy. They are still richer than everybody else. They're just not so rich that they don't have to exist in reality. And like, it's a good thing. And it's like people still want to live in these places. They want to live in them because they get nicer, right? Like it's so expensive to live in New York, but like also everything is in New York. You've got all the culture, all the music, all the art, all the restaurants, and et cetera, et cetera. So people want to live there, even though it costs 3, 4, 5 times as much to live there as it would somewhere else. And like millionaires, if they were really worried about saving money, would move to places like Wichita, Kansas, where they'll pay you 10 grand a year to live in Wichita, right? So it's clear that the taxes work, but it's really, really, really hard to get somebody to voluntarily do a thing. And when you've got so much money that you don't have to interact with reality, you can also interact with lobbyists to make sure that nobody touches your money. And I think this is the current like issue that we're in. But we've been through this before, and we will likely be through this again. The wheel turns, right? What I hope happens is what happened last time, the Gilded Age, right? And I hope we do it without a world war this time. But the pattern of what happened last time was basically runaway wealth. People did like kind of existed in this parallel, alternate, bizarro reality, and did things like threw Great Gatsby parties while people outside were starving. It's just stuff that maybe seems a little familiar. But then, unfortunately, we had the Depression and World War II. And out the other side of that, we saw unionization. We saw like, proper taxes. I think like here's a really wild one that I can show. You ever seen the Reagan charts? Are they the Reagan graphs? There's a whole like site on this. Okay. So like this is a whole thing where like income moves. So top 5% median, bottom 20%. And you can kind of see like it starts to break around Reagan, but everybody was growing the same. And it's not like the country was falling apart. Like we weren't in bad shape here. This is where the boomers were. Like this is what fed the boomers. And then all of this is what's causing the crisis that we had before. And so there's like all of these interesting things here. Like there's like one on unionization. Union density, right? So here's where's Reagan? I think it's about right here. this? That's not it. Union membership declines. So where's 1973 level? Is that right? This is Reagan. So like you kind of see that things just get like way worse as the unions start to drop off. So basically, like there's this we've been here before where people aren't. Everybody kind of goes think for yourself. Everybody goes ultra capitalism. And of course, the most sociopathic people in an unregulated world are the ones who win the most in capitalism, which means that the worst people in the world become the ones who run the world, which means that eventually we have some kind of turnover because it doesn't last very long when you've got sociopaths running the world. At which point we kind of collectively remember that, oh, yeah, if we take care of each other, things are good. We do that for a little bit, then we all forget, and then the sociopaths get in charge again, and it all happens again. It's happened throughout history over and over and over again. It's a pretty predictable pattern in like the most depressing way. So then you just need to remember that it can get better, to push to make it better, to not allow the stuff happens that can make it get worse. Um, and to try to, educate people and like be hopeful. Don't be a doomer about it. Remember that these things are cycles and we're in one and we can push through it. And maybe we can get lucky and do it without a bunch of like violence and we can actually do it with just making better decisions, voting better people in and like forcing not like the the moderate liberals that are saying like, well, what we really want is to just not change anything, but like, we like that stuff is broken because it makes us rich. We just don't want it to be so obvious that that it hurts people. I'm talking like the like bring in some like quote unquote wacko leftists, like let them build like the Mamdani thing, like let him put in free public transit, let him turn the whole city into a pedestrian zone. Like those are good policies. Those are the things that make cities equitable and tax millionaires get the like the wealth tax used to be on the top percentages of earners. It was like 70%, and they still had more money than all of us because they were still making millions of dollars even if they got taxed 70% on it. And that 70% is the sort of thing that builds out the social safety net, things like that. Like, and I mean, the other thing too is like we maybe someday we'll learn as a country to not privatize everything and to embrace this idea that maybe if we didn't have to put a profit incentive around things like healthcare, we would be healthier and less broke as a nation. But billions of dollars are riding on people not making that decision. So of course it'll take a long time for us to get there. Anyways, is this fun? Is everybody having a good time? So anyway, that's my rant for the day. We had to get one in, right? We had to start arguing about all this stuff. But let me say this because we're pretty much at time. I need to wrap it up. I am, despite everything that I just said, I'm an optimist about this stuff, and I think that we can pragmatically say that things will recover and get better. It's up to us to make sure they don't get that much worse. And I think the way that we're able to control that is by just, putting out messages that we do have influence on what happens around us by doing things like showing up to vote, by speaking up for our coworkers and letting our executives know that they're not going to get away with just doing whatever hurtful thing they want and laying all of us off and saying that the remaining people now have to do 3 times as much work because AI is making them more effective. Like we don't have the ability to control the future directly. We don't have like no individual is responsible for all of this, and we shouldn't feel guilty about the way things are. But at the same time, we can't give up and we can't say that we have no agency at all. Like we are the ones who make the groundswell, right? And the way this stuff changes, if you look through history, the way it changes is that we hit a critical mass of people saying, I don't like this, right? And we hit that critical mass by being out in our community, by organizing or talking to our friends. And when I'm not saying you got to go to protests or that you got to suddenly become like a revolutionary or a political activist. I'm just saying, don't shut yourself off. Like be part of your community, look around at the people around you, reach out to people that are are in your neighborhoods and that are in your digital communities as well, and talk to them, right? And remember that like at all of this, we're all people and we're all trying to do good things. And if we show up for each other and when we can influence things to be more supportive of everybody and not just more beneficial to me personally, um, then we get better outcomes that benefit all of us, right? And we can accelerate the point where companies realize that they need to treat us well, right? We had a brief moment of a lot of leverage around the pandemic where, if you remember this, companies were doing everything. They were doing mental health days, they were doing 4-day work weeks, they were providing things like therapy as benefits, like stuff that we'd never seen before. And then the people in charge decided it was all too woke and backlashed, and we didn't have the unions or the ability to stop them, right? And so it's that's kind of where I think we need to go, is not necessarily unions, but pushing a little bit. You got a question? I got like 2 minutes to give you an answer. Hit me. What you got? So while we're waiting for that to come through, um, I got. Uh, I'm gonna see if I can get an episode pulled together for this Thursday on Learn with Jason. We're also going to be launching the like edited versions of the last few episodes. I finally just sat down and made some art for it. So look for Web Dev Podcast is going to be coming out. That's going to be the spoken part, the first like 15 to 30 minutes of what traditionally was Learn with Jason, and the recorded edited versions of Learn with Jason, which will be just the pair programming. Um, Love to get some feedback from folks on that, on what you want to see in the audio version, like what you want to hear us talk about. Like, we're right now we kind of go abstract, go philosophical. Why does this tool exist? What problem does it solve? Um, if you want to see other things, if you want to see something on the show, please let me know, because I'm always looking for new things to do. I want to be keeping up on what's going on in web dev. I feel like I personally have been in a bit of a slump where I felt kind of overwhelmed by all this stuff, and as a result, I haven't been keeping up as well as I could. And I also think as an industry, we've sort of over indexed on like make everything into an agent, and to me that doesn't feel like the future. That feels like a gold rush that's sort of a fool's gold rush that I think we'll see like tame here. Um, but yeah, just kind of looking for what, going into next year. What do y'all want to see? Please join the Discord and let us know, so that you find that link to the Discord here. Jump on the Discord and let us know what you want to see, because I am always looking to make more stuff, looking to partner with more people, partner with different companies. And now that I'm done with production for the year, my goal for all of December and the rest of November, other than the holidays, is just kind of thinking about future programming, getting prepped for next year. So now's a great time to pitch me on something. All right, we got a question. Want to learn programming so bad, but you're scared if AI is going to take over programming, and the time you spend learning is wasted. So we talked about this a little bit earlier. I've talked about this on previous episodes as well, but the AI is not going to take your job. We're actively seeing the even the companies that were saying that like AI is going to take all the coding jobs are starting to back off and say that AI tooling is what's going to create the next revolution. So if you are interested in learning web dev, there will be more dev jobs than there were before, despite AI. And that's because AI writes code, and it doesn't write code perfectly. It's not a perfect abstraction. I don't believe in their current forms that LLMs can create a perfect abstraction. That means that for us as developers, AI in its current form will always need human intervention to be good, and it still needs human creativity and human organizational skills to direct it toward building anything of value, because all it can do on its own is kind of spit out something that already exists. And you can see that if you use things like Lovable and V0, et cetera, that if you tell them to build a thing, they build you basically what you've seen before, right? And they always will, and they don't have creativity built into them. They are prediction machines. So that means you as a developer are the creative force, you are the organizing force, you are the director. And at the end of the day, you're going to have to be the coder that goes in and builds the stuff that the LLM can't predict, that cleans up the messes that the LLM makes, and the one who can kind of see when the LLM's getting itself into a corner that's going to be impossible to maintain. There are tons and tons of jobs open right now. There are more jobs opening right now than I saw a few months back, and a lot more than I saw a year ago. I don't suspect that's going to change. I think that companies are going to start investing more and more in AI powered dev tools as opposed to AI replacing devs. And I think that that is also going to lead to more and more companies having heavy digital reliance who need developers to make those experiences better and better. So, all that to say, learning dev is just as valuable now as it was before. What I will say is that it is no longer going to be a world where you get a boot camp, where you go to a boot camp and immediately walk into a six-figure job. I think those days are behind us. I don't know that we're going to see that anymore. But there are more tools than ever that allow you to learn and build stuff. And there's great communities and there's awesome ways to get out there and get involved and learn and try stuff. And people who are showing up in the community, who are learning, who are curious, who really put their work out there, they're going to get jobs. Like we're seeing it happen now, and we'll continue seeing that. It's always been true, even in places that are famously insular, like Hollywood. You know, it ends up, they say it's not who you know, it's not about what you know, it's who you know. I think that's kind of true. The inverse of that, I would say, is more important. It's about who knows you, right? That's the phrase that I've heard a lot is the people who know you are the people who bring you up and offer you up for opportunities when you're not in the room. So who's speaking on your behalf is a big question to ask. And the way that you get people to speak on your behalf, you ship things, right? So that's the game is keep pushing, keep learning. Remember that your creativity, your ability to communicate, your ability to understand what somebody wants and translate that into a plan that can be built either by your hands or by an AI hands. Those are the skills that are really valuable. And that's always been true. Before AI, the devs who went beyond senior were the ones who could really communicate and think about what the company needed and understand when the sales team was saying what they wanted, how that translated into technical things and not just say, oh, well, sales isn't going to let me fix my technical debt, right? That's the kind of stuff that's really going to make a big change. So yeah, keep going, keep pushing, keep going. You're going to do just fine. Little gangster. Love it. Yeah, don't be an asshole. Treat people well, and you've got a long career in front of you, no matter what your industry is. And yeah, AI can make an abstract version of a combination of things that already exist. The more precise or the more novel, right? Like you're not pushing boundaries with AI. You are rehashing existing ideas with AI. You have to be the one to push that boundary and create something that goes beyond what's been created before, because AIs are the LLMs that we use today are next token predictors. That is quite literally their technological function. So they're not going to generate novel concepts. They're going to generate hashes of existing concepts. That is technically, like computer sciencely, how they function for whatever word that was. So yeah, I'm not afraid. Creative people are creative people. They will have jobs for a long time, no matter how hard these people say that. Because I mean, I think like the reason that there's such a threat against these jobs is that a bunch of aggressively mid people got hope that they could like beat all these people who made them feel inferior for so long. So people are looking at the tools and saying like, oh yeah, I can generate art. Now you don't matter anymore. I can make art. And we look at their stuff and it's mid, and it will continue to be mid. And their lack of ideas is what makes it mid. Eventually, when the tools are less like gross and aren't using everyone's copyrighted work and aren't burning, entire forests to generate images, I think we'll see actually creative people use local models trained on their own data to do incredibly creative stuff. And we are kind of seeing that, like early peaks into that world. Like creativity is the secret sauce. And if you don't have the sauce, it kind of doesn't matter what tools you're using, because you're going to make something mid, right? So a mid prediction generator in the hands of a mid person who's trying to like stick it to creatives, it's going to be mid. Sorry. That's what it is. I'm sorry. Like there's no way around that. It's creative people can use tools in creative ways, and they can do that with no tools and like pick up some dirt off the ground and scrabble that into something really interesting looking, or they can use the most advanced tools on the planet to make something really creative and cool. And I think that will continue to be true forever. So continue to stay curious, be creative, push your own boundaries, challenge yourself, make yourself uncomfortable on purpose, try to find people that push you out of your comfort zone, because that's what makes us interesting and that's what makes us creative. Anyways, I love you all. Thank you so much for hanging out. We will maybe see you on Thursday. We'll definitely see you next Tuesday. And thanks for hanging out. See you, friends.